All right, so tell me, what was it? What was it like when you were a kid growing up? I mean, what was it?
Oh my God,
Oh yeah.
we were so poor. It was pitiful.
Did you grow
we
up in Crossett?
yeah. Well, Hamburg. Really, I was born and raised in Hamburg, and we lived out in the country, about three and a half miles outside of Hamburg, out in the country. And my daddy was a farmer. He was a sharecrop farmer. He had to go borrow money at the bank in the springtime to buy seed and feed and fertilize and say a mule if they say something happened with one of his mules or something. He had to buy a mule and plow and things like that. And he borrowed money from the bank, to do the crop. And first bale of cotton that come out of the, these crops, he'd give the money, pay the money back to the bank, what he'd borrowed. So he didn't owe anything. And anything we had left, all that's what we had to live on the rest of the year. And we always had plenty of food because we grew our own, grew everything. He grew potatoes and tomatoes and peanuts and corn, beans, peas, everything that you grow, and turnip greens, everything you grow in the country. And we always had, Mama always canned a lot of food. She canned about 2,000 or 3,000 quarts of food every year, so we always had plenty of food in the wintertime. So we never went hungry. We always had plenty to eat, in other words. And she always made homemade biscuits and everything. And for breakfast, we always had biscuits and bacon, and our sausage and gravy, and she'd make big pans of grandma biscuits, so everybody have all the biscuits they could eat. So we never had to go hungry, but we didn't have a lot of money. We never had a lot of money, but she had enough to buy our clothes. And we'd get one pair of shoes each year, just before we started school. They'd buy us one pair of shoes apiece, and buy some kind of new clothes. But we didn't we didn't have fancy clothes. I remember Mom make our dresses out of feed sacks. She'd buy food and feed in the sacks that had put print on them, and she'd wash them and starch them and iron them, and make our dresses out of that. And people in town made fun of that. Our dresses, but we thought they was really pretty, because all the other people that lived in the country lived they dressed just like we did, so we didn't think we were any different from anybody else. So it didn't make us no difference. We liked our dresses. But
Was cotton the only thing your dad farmed?
oh, he grew cotton, corn, and potatoes, and everything. That uh, cotton was the main crop. That was main money crop. But watermelons and cantaloupes and things like that, he sold a lot of them. He'd sell a lot of stuff. And he always had a pig shut up in the pen so he could kill it when it got cold weather. And we had a lot of cows, and he raised our own beef. He'd keep a steer, say a little bull calf, and they'd castrate them so that they could be used for beef. And the pigs had to be castrated so they could be used for pork. So he'd kill his own, we'd kill his own meat, and cut it up. He'd bring it in, put it on the dining room table, cut it up and everything. So we always had plenty of meat and everything. And we always grew our own. And my mom always milked a cow, so we had plenty of milk and plenty of butter and cream, anything we wanted. We always ate good, And I guess we was poor. We was considered to be poor people, but we didn't realize it. We didn't know we was poor. Well, we didn't have nobody to compare ourselves to, so we didn't know that. But we had plenty of everything that we needed, so we didn't think about ourselves as being poor. I thought we thought was just as well off as anybody else was. And my daddy got killed when I was a little girl. I was about 5 years old, I guess, when Daddy got killed. He went to a man's house to kill him. The man killed him instead. So I grew up without a daddy. I couldn't hardly remember what my daddy looked like. So I really missed my daddy because it was tough on a girl growing up without a daddy. I don't think people really realize how much a girl needs her daddy, unless they had to grow up without one. And my mama, she got married 5 different times. She outlived 5 different husbands, but they never seemed like my daddy to me. You know, just I missed him, and it hurt really bad growing up without daddy.
So who took care of the farm after he passed away?
My mama, none of us was big enough to get out and plow. Mama would plow, you know, when Daddy was alive. She would get out and plow and do all the things that he had to do to help him, you know. But after he died, well, she didn't have nobody to help. None of us was old enough to get out and plow and everything. So she said, well, I guess we're going to have to sell the farm and move uptown. And she did that and moved uptown, and she opened a little big grocery store, and she run a little grocery store after that.
In Hamburg then?
In Hamburg. That's the way she made her living. Because all of us had done moved away by then, you know. All she had to do was make a living for herself. And actually, I run away from home when I was 15 years old. I missed my daddy, and I ran away from home, and I went to Crossett, and Aunt Gracie, my mama's sister, lived in Crossett. So I went to her house, and she had a see. I thought Mama would come and get me. She'd always done that. But every time I'd run away, me and my brother both, we'd run away. Every time she started to whoop us, we'd run away. We didn't want to be whooped. So I went to Aunt Gracie's house, and she said I could live in this little servant's house that she had out in the back of her house. And I went up to the bus station and got a job. I had trouble getting a job because I wasn't 15 years old. But I lied about my age and told them I was 16. And they told me I could work until I got a Social Security number. So I wasn't even old enough to get Social Security number. But I went ahead and worked there. And then I met TV, and we started going together. And I actually had hitchhiked and come back to Hamburg, and I was come back to see my mama. I done got homesick. Come back to see my mama, and him and another guy was over in Hamburg from Crossett, and they picked me and this other girl up, and they told us they'd bring us back to Crossett. They'd give us a ride back to Crossett. So we let them bring us back to Crossett. And I remember I told him I miss my daddy.
You want a cookie, David?
And he said, well, I don't know. I remember I cried or something, you know, because I missed my daddy. And he said, well, I'll take care of it, you know. And I guess that's what I wanted, you know. I was young, and I was wanting somebody to take care of me. I felt, you know, lonely. So I started doing him, and we kept going together, and finally he went into the service, and he come up here to Little Rock and boot camp, and he got me to come up here and follow him up here and stuff like that. And he was already married, but he told me, he didn't tell me at first that he was already married. I didn't know it, but he finally told me he was already married. And I said, well, what are you doing? What are you going to me for if you're already married? He said, well, we're fixing to get a divorce. And that's what most men use as an excuse that we fixing to get a divorce. I didn't realize that at the time, you know. But I said, well, we kept on going together, and he come up here to boot camp, and he asked me to follow him up here, and I did. And they sent him to Brownwood, Texas, and I followed him there. And he was there with his wife and his children. He had 2 little children, a little boy and a little girl. The little boy's name was Tarleton Van Der Miles III, and the little girl's name was Margie Lynn. And he asked me if I'd come out there where he's at and stay with the children while his wife come back to Crossett and get a divorce. Got a divorce. I said, well, what's she gonna do that for? He said, well, I told you we was on the verge of getting a divorce before. And he said, he went to he was in the army, and he said, I kept noticing my sergeant would give me BFK, you know, whatever it is, where they have to stay in and help with the food, you know, preparing the food, peeling potatoes and whatnot. He said, I kept noticing he'd give me that when I was wanting to come home, come out, you know, to be with us. I'd be with his children, and said he come home one night. He asked somebody else to take his place, and he come home one night and caught her in bed with somebody else. And that gave him an excuse to get a divorce. I said, I'm not sure that was the truth. You know, I sounded too much like something that he prefabricated, because it didn't sound like something that would actually happen. It sounded like he was using that to cover up his guilty conscience, because he was already going to me. But my mama didn't like my husband, didn't like TV, because she said, if he leave one woman for you, he'll leave you for another woman. I said, well, I don't believe that's so. And he never did do that. But, we was married for 32 years, and we had 6 children. And we would still been married if he had died. I said, well, I guess we was as happy as any couple could be.
What was it like when you growing up as a child? I mean, what did y'all usually do?
We didn't have any toys and anything like that. We had to get out in the yard, play Annie over the house, and we invented our own games, you know, hopscotch and different things like that. And I remember we had some little calves. Daddy had some little calves in the barnyard, and we'd catch them when they go off the cow, and we'd get out there and get it behind the little calves and get a tail and make them swing us around. And we had a barnyard, a barn loft, and we'd had peanuts in that barn loft. He'd raise peanuts every year, and he'd put peanuts up in the barn loft, and we'd go up there and get up in the yard, in the barn, and pick off peanuts on rainy days. And he'd let us pick off peanuts, and we could, you know, pick off all we could eat, you know, for ourselves, and then we could sell some if we could pick off enough. We could sell them and make us some spending money. So we had fun doing that kind of stuff, you know. Actually, we didn't really. Mama didn't give us time to play. She made us work all the time. And when we come home from school, we had to pull our school clothes off and put on our work clothes and go work until it got dark out in the field, or doing whatever needed to be done. Picking cotton or hoeing corn or whatever, chopping cotton or doing whatever needed to be done, you know. And I remember I did want to learn how to chop cotton and everything. After I learned how, they'd make me get out there and stay out there in the hot sun all day long. I wished I'd never learned. But I did. I really wanted to do everything everybody else had done. I tried to grow up too fast. But I was glad that, you know, I wanted to do everything everybody else. I want to learn how to do everything everybody else did. So to me, that work was fun. It was fun. It was more fun than playing because I didn't know how to play. Mama didn't give us no time to play. We didn't really know what it was to play. I don't guess she knew how to play because she never took time to play. She was too busy trying to take care of us, you know. She had 8 of us, you know. That's a lot of children to take care of when you're by yourself. After my daddy died, she had all of us by herself, you know. And I imagine we was pretty good handful. And I expect I needed whooping more often than I got it. And I know my brother did. And he said he told his children, he said, I told him, if you ever run from me whenever I start to whoop you, I'm going to wear you out when I do catch you. And he said they never did run from me either. I said, well, I guess I never did whoop mine very much. I said, I remember how I hated to be whipped when I was a kid, and I guess I'd threatened to whoop them, but I never did whoop them. And my husband did. He'd pull his belt off and I remember the kid, you know, he'd hold one of the arms, you know, hold him by the hand, you know, and he'd be saying that belt, and they'd be going round and round, making him go round and round. He said, I think it hurt me worse than it did him.
So when did you and TV get married?
In Ashley County. We went over to Brother Powell. He was living in Hamburg. We went to him, and his wife and his maid was our witnesses. And there wasn't nobody at our wedding, just me and him. And those 2 people.
When did y'all get married?
1945.
1945.
I believe it was January the 18th in 1945.
How old were you?
I was, it says on my marriage license I was 18, but I don't think I was quite 18. I think we might have totaled the field there. And it says on there that TV was 30 and I was 18. But I think I probably had to have Mama's permission. I don't think I was quite 18 years old. But she said, I'll let you get married if you want to, but said if you make your bed hard, you're going to have to lay in it. I never forgot those words, you know. Sometimes when Dave and I would get in a fuss, I have a fight or something, I'd think about going back home, and I'd think, my mama told me if I made my bed hard, I was going to have to lay in it, so I guess I'm going to have to lay in it. So I, you know, wouldn't even consider going back home.
So did you and TV always live in Crossett, or?
Yeah, we you know, he built that house. Actually, we built 2 or 3 houses. We had 2 or 3 houses burned down, you know. The first house we built was, we come back from San Diego. We got out of the service in San Diego, and we stayed out there for about 3 years, I guess. And Ronnie, my oldest boy, was born in San Diego. And he's the only one that was born in San Diego. All the rest of them was born in Ashley County. And we moved to well, first we stayed at Josephine's whenever we first come back from San Diego. And he said he left a job out there in San Diego. He was working for Firestone Rubber Company, and they decided to go union. He and some other men talked to the other men working for Firestone to go talk to the men going union, you know, join the union. And his boss found out about it, and then he fired TV. And he said, well, he didn't care if he did. He didn't fire him. He said, I was fixing to go home anyway. We done got homesick, and he's going to come back to Arkansas. So we come back to Arkansas, and he found out later that if he'd went back, one of his buddies called him and told him, said, if you'd come back, you got $1,000 rebate, and you got your job back. And he said, well, I don't want it back. I'm going to stay in Arkansas. I decided he done got in with Harry Bond and was decided he's going to work on television. You know, he learned television business. And he built the first television set that was ever played in Crossett himself. Built it from scratch. We ordered the parts and everything and built it from scratch and made it work. So we actually seen out of Memphis, Tennessee, we got television before anybody else did in Crossett. And he worked for Harry Bond for several years there and learned everything he could about television. And CB radio, you know, Harry Bond was a ham radio operator. And he taught him all about radio, ham operating, you know, and how to work one, how to build one, and everything. So he got his own CB radio. And he was the best television man in Crossett for 23 years. And of course I was a stay-at-home mom. I had to be a telephone operator and this secretary, or whatever you want to call it. In other words, I stayed there and I stayed with his business. Even when he went hunting, I stayed there and took calls, you know, even when he went hunting. But Josephine gave us 2 acres of land down in front of her. There was 2 acres down in front of her house. And we went out she let me have the timber, go out in the woods and cut the timber down, you know, the trees down and take them to the mill and have them sawed up. And they made enough lumber to build our first house out of old, the lumber hadn't been smoothed out, in other words, it's just rough lumber. And he built our first house out of that. And he built it himself. And we went out to Hugo's. That's about the only place he'd ever take me, it seemed like, was to Hugo's. And he liked to go out there every Sunday and spend the day and eat dinner with them and everything like that. And he always cooked big meals and everything. So he liked to go out there and eat dinner with him. And he would, one Saturday we went out there and we was on our way back and somebody called us. Somebody stopped us, I think Shorty Miller, stopped us and said, "Ain't no need in rushing back, Mr. Miles, your house is done burned down to the ground. Everything burned up." We had to start over right from scratch. I mean, didn't have nothing. We wasn't nobody there, so there was nothing saved. And we had to start over from scratch. And the next time he built this house, of course, he had borrowed money from the bank. We didn't have no money. No one saved to do nothing like that, so he had to always borrowed money from the bank. And we always had a mortgage against that. And him and Hugo built this big house. I mean, it was a big one. And the living room and dining room was as big as this kitchen and living room. This living room and the kitchen and everything combined. And I remember the kid was, it had hardwood floor and the kid would learn how to skate all around that. It was so big, it was like a skating rink, it was so big. And one night he woke me up and Ronnie, I think, had used our car. He had a brand new Pontiac car and it was in our garage. And the horn was blowing and the dogs were barking and Jimmy Johnson was living across the street with Josephine's house, and he heard those dogs barking and the horn blowing, and looked over there, and our whole house was on fire. The whole garage had started on fire. The fire started in the garage, and it set the whole front part of the house on fire. And he run over there to wake TV up, and he pounded on the window and said, Mr. Miles, your house is on fire." So TV woke me up and he said, "Honey," said, "don't get scared, but said the house is on fire. I'm gonna take the window out and let you and Sherry, put you and Sherry out." Sherry was a little bitty baby. And he wrapped her up in a blanket and put her like that. Let me get out the window, and he handed her out the window from my arm. And then he said, I'm gonna go down the hall and wake the boys up. All the boys are living, but down the hall, and back bedrooms. So he put me out. And I was standing there shaking like a dog. I shivered. I was in shock. I'm sure I was doing it. I couldn't control my shaking. And we went over to Joseph's, and we had lived there for, I guess, about 3 or 4 months till TV could get. He bought another piece of land from her, another acre, where the rest house is now. Where that house is, and he said, "I'm too old to have to start over again." he said, I just don't see how I can start over again, but he did. He built it, and you gotta go. And we lived in there. Then we lived in that house till he died. And when Harry got sick, he got poliodosis, and then he got sick and had to go into the hospital. He was living with me at that time, and he woke me up one Sunday morning and said, "Mama, my stomach's on fire. I won't have to go to the hospital." Said, call Rap and tell him to call 911. So I did, and 911 got him. And first he had to go in there and take a bath because he knew he didn't smell good. His girlfriend done told me to tell him that he didn't smell good. He needed to take a bath. But he said, "I can't take a bath. It hurts my feet to get in that tub. Get over in the tub." But he did take a bath because he knew he was fixing to go in the hospital. And when he got in the hospital, they asked him what kind of drugs he was on, and he said, all kind of drugs, legal and illegal. He said, well, I had to know because I'm going to have to put you to sleep because your appendix is fixing to rupture and you might have your appendix stuck out. So they went in there and I guess they took his appendix out and sewed him back up. And the first 7 weeks he was in the hospital. And Dr. Wilson said, "Hey, there's something wrong. You're not healing up like you're supposed to." So he went back in there and said, "I'm going to have to do an expiratory operation and see what's wrong, why you're not healing up." And he did. And he found dark spots on Harry's intestines and Harry gangrene setting in on his intestines. And he said, "I'm going to have to take most of your intestines out, Harry." Harry's asleep because he didn't tell him that, told me that. So I said, "Well, do whatever you have to do." So he did. He said he cut most of Harry's intestines out, washed him out about 3 gallons of water, sewed him back up, and he started healing up then. But as soon as he got well enough to leave, Dr. Wilson told him, "Harry, you're not going to be able to go home. You're going to have to go in those folks' home. Your mama can't take care of you no more." I had got gout in my feet and I couldn't even walk on my feet. I dropped a little old telephone director on my little toe, and it made that foot swell up, and I couldn't even stand up on my foot at all. So he said, "Why didn't somebody tell me I wasn't going to be able to go home?" And Rap told him, said, "Well, you couldn't nobody tell you that, Harry. You couldn't understand it." And he said, "Give me some kind of drug. I don't want to go home. I don't want to go to no person." But Rap told him, said, "Well, you're going to have to anyway, Harry. You don't understand why now, but you..." And he told me later that he hated that nursing home. He said, "I wish they'd send me to Pine Bluff somewhere." And I said, "Harry, you don't hate this nursing home. It's just, you hate the fact that you're not in control of your own body anymore. That's what you hate, not the nursing home. The nursing home is just by symptom. It's not what's causing you to hate it. It's the fact that you don't have any control over your own body." He said, "I guess you're right there." But he said, I'm not living there, I'm just existing." And I had to move out of my house, and I'd moved to Hamburg so I could go visit him every day in the nursing said, no. I moved in Miss Chapman, Sherry's husband's grandmother's house. It's her house. His grandmother died and left her house empty, and everything she had was still there. All her silverware, her dishes, and everything. I could have moved just moved myself, my clothes in there, but I didn't. I moved everything I had over there, and I thought I was going to just live there from now on, you know. But then Sherry, she moved to. Her and Robert was breaking up, and I didn't know it. You know, I didn't know they was fixing to get a divorce. She hadn't told me nothing about it until she started going on Saturday. She'd go to Monroe, and she'd been coming by and getting me and taking me to go buy groceries and everything on Saturdays. But she quit doing that, so I knew there was something wrong. And then she told me, said, "Mama, Robert and I are fixing to get a divorce, and I'm fixing to move to Monroe." So I said, "Well, what am I supposed to do next, Sherry?" And she said, "I don't know, Mama. I guess you have to do whatever you want to do. You can stay here if you want to. Robert don't mind if you stay in here, you know." He said you could live here the rest of your life if you wanted to. And I didn't have to pay any rent or anything. The house was just standing there empty, you know. And everything was just like his grandmother left it. And had the heat and the gas and everything. Electricity, everything was running. Water, gas, had water. Water was from the pump, but it's running water just like city water. So I stayed a little while longer, and John told me that Miss Barnett's house was sitting there empty where they lived. And that Miss Barnett was in the nursing home then. So he said, "Mom, if you want to, you can move over here to Miss Barnett's house and live there for the rest of your life if you want to." I said, "Well, I believe I will. I'd be closer to them, you know, where I could go visit with them, and they could come visit me." So I moved over there to Miss Barnett's, and then stayed there for a while. Miss Barnett got out of the nursing. She got well in the nursing home. Got out and was living with me, you know, after a little while. And she got feeling like she wanted to move to Monticello to be with Eddie, you know, Eddie was her son. And she thought she'd rather live with him, so she moved up there to live with him. And I stayed on there, I guess I stayed there about 20 years. You know, you moved up there, you one time down there with me, and lived there for a while, and then Betty and them kept saying that Miss Barnett was going to declare bankruptcy on that house, you know, and everything, and that they was going to tear it down. So Nancy asked me if I wanted to move up here with her, and she said, "Mama, ain't you lonesome living here by yourself?" And I said, "Yeah, but I got everything that I need to be happy. I'm contented here." But she said, "Wouldn't you rather move up there and live with me instead of living by yourself?" I said, "I guess so. I didn't really want to, but couldn't see no reason why not." I said, "I haven't got anything really to hold me here, you know. It's mine well to do." So she asked me to move up here, and I did. So I've been up here since. And back then, you know, Harry done died and done buried him and everything. And she said, "You need to do something to get away from here so you can quit grieving over here." And I said, "Well, I ain't gonna quit grieving over him. I try to quit thinking about it, but I said, it hurts me when I think about having to lose him. He wasn't but 43 years old. But I said, I don't blame myself. But in a way, I feel guilty because we couldn't get him off of drugs, you know. Me and John Hoover had gone down to Monroe and everything with him, go through all them courses and everything, trying to get him off of drugs. And we thought he was off of drugs. And I couldn't tell when he was on drugs and when he wasn't on drugs till I see him in his room sitting one time, sitting there with a needle in his arm, sitting there sound asleep with a needle in his arm. I said, it broke my heart to see my kid just shooting up, just to get on a high like that. Couldn't read, he didn't want to preserve his own life that way. But I guess they, if them drugs don't get a hold of you, you don't have no control over it. They got the control, you haven't. And he done lost control of his life.
Tell me about the kids growing up. What were they like? Like my dad and Uncle Ronnie and all
Oh,
of them?
that's... John was one of the ones, the only one that was different. He was always going around, seemed to be like he was driving something, And I always had that noise going with his big loud, like he was driving a car. And Raph and Harry and Ronnie and all of them be playing ball or something like that. And John wouldn't. He'd be out there playing with us, going around. I love John just as much as I do about it. But I said I couldn't take it, him saying me I was bashing old man. I said, I ain't never bashed old man. I said, I loved that old man all of his life. And even made him dream about him tonight, and every time I go to sleep. And I told Rev I dreamed about his Eddie all the time. He said, I do too. Mom said, it's just like he's still here in my dreams. I said, well, he is still here, his spirit. His spirit's still here. His body's gone, but his spirit's still there. And always will be.
What did they used to do as kids? I mean, did they hunt a lot or what?
Oh yeah, they hunted a lot. They used to go deer hunting with Daddy. Daddy go deer hunting every year, Every time it comes deer season, they'd go deer hunting. And he killed deer about every year, or sometimes 2 deer. And he'd get, half of them, and the he belonged to a club out there, and the club would get half of it. And we always had plenty of deer meat and everything. And had plenty to eat and plenty to put in the freezer, So we always had plenty of meat of some kind. We didn't have, he used to have some pigs on the range too, he could go out and had his own bark, and he could go out and kill a pig every once in a while. So we could have pork, all the fresh pork we wanted. The boys like to go, they like to go fishing and everything, but most of the time he'd go fishing with his brother, Hugo. And one time I got on to him about it. I said, you need to take your son, start taking them fishing instead of going with your brother all the time. I said, you're robbing them of something that they need to know, to go fishing with their own daddy. And he finally started taking them, but they done by then. Done started getting their own, had their own friends, and they like to go with their friends instead of going with them. He realized he had waited too late to start. But they liked to coon hunt and stuff like that, and he started going over and trying to coon hunt with them. They had some old mules they'd get on and ride. He said, I'm having trouble getting on them old mules. I don't know where I can go coon hunting with them or not. But he'd go over and try anyway. He'd like to try to get close to them, even though he'd done kind of sort of waited late, to start.
Kids have lots of boyfriends and girlfriends, or?
They had to, John got interested in Diane when I guess, just almost by the time he got out of school. And she wasn't all that old either. She was about the same age he was. And I guess she was the only girl that he ever dated. I don't believe he ever dated anybody else. Now Ronnie, he was always the ladies' man, He's into all the way. I mean, him can't think what his name is right now. Got in a fight over a girl one night. Oh, yeah, John got in a fight too about a girl. He said, I didn't know what the boy was beating me up on. The 2 girls was sitting in the car and said, I was just standing at the door talking to the girl, and old Bubba Gilmore just come up there and said, John, what you messing with my girl for? And jerk John down, or knocked him down, and got on him with a broken bottle and was trying to whip him with a bottle, cut him with a bottle. And David Johnson and Brad pulled Bubba off, get up John, so he wouldn't cut him. John said, I didn't know what he was fighting me for. I wasn't doing nothing. I didn't have no idea the girl was his girl. I was just standing there talking to them girls. I wasn't paying no attention to him. That's the only time I ever remember him getting in trouble with anybody, Just that boy trying to fight him because he thought he was messing with his girl.
What about Dad? How was he with the girls?
Oh my God, your daddy the girls run after him. I mean, they chased him. They'd come to the house to get him to go with them. And Rav would go run back in the back room and said, Mom, tell him I'm not at home. I don't want to go out with that girl. He was a ladies' man, and he didn't want to be a ladies' man. Rav was kind of shy. He didn't want a girl chasing after him. But he was so good looking. I think girls couldn't ever chase after him. I told him, well, my God, instead of running and hide from them, go with them. They'll probably show you a good time. Or you can show them a good time. But he was kind of shy. And he finally got interested in old Tina Evans. And she wasn't quite as old as he was. But she liked to run around with a friend, go out bicycling on Sunday with her friends, single friends. And I guess that was probably what broke them up. I don't really know what broke them up. They was married and they didn't stay married too long. So she just kept running around with her single friends and wasn't long till after that got interested in your mother, and somehow they wound up getting a divorce, and he married your mother. I never did know what really broke them up. Tina said, I remember she tried to be really friendly with me, and she was, at that time she wasn't, I was smoking and she wasn't smoking, but she liked to smoke, but she'd come smoke with me, and she said, if Ralph asked me why I smell like cigarettes, I'm going to tell him it's because I've been around you and your cigarette smoke gets off on me. I said, I don't think you can pull that on Ralph. Ralph ain't that dumb. I said, I wish you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't use me that way. I don't like you doing that. But Tina was kind of funny that way anyway. One time she had to go to the washer to wash clothes, and she asked me to go with her. And I didn't take no money with me. I usually didn't have any money. But I sometimes had a little bit of money in my change purse, but I didn't take it with me. And I asked her to buy me a coat. She bought herself a coat and some peanuts, and I asked her to buy me a coat and some peanuts. She said, no, I'm not going to do it. You can buy it with your own money. I said, well, I hadn't got no money with me. And she didn't buy it. She wouldn't buy me a coat and peanuts. And I told her, well, next time I'm not coming up here with you. I'd go with her to wash the tea because she didn't like to go by herself. And I just go up. I didn't have to go get the wash tea to wash my clothes. I had to wash them in. She just dry it home, and I'd do it my own in my own home. But after that, I told her, I said, I'm going to tell Ralph what you did, the way you acted. I told Ralph about it. I don't know where he said anything to her or not. I didn't ask him about it after that. I just didn't go with her to wash tears no more. I was doing her a favor, and she didn't act like I was doing her no favor. I didn't have to go to the wash tear to get my clothes washed. I had a washing machine made at home.
So have you ever drove a car before? Or?
No. I had never drove. TV started teaching me how to drive one time. We had a blowout, and I put my foot on the gas instead of on the brakes, and we went bouncing across the cornfield. and it bumped my head on the top of the thing. And after that, I said, I ain't gonna learn how to drive. But I got narcolepsy. I figured out if I start driving, I would go to sleep at the wheel, and I might kill myself and somebody else too. So I decided not to do that. I just never have done it. Oh, I had I inherited that truck. He had the 1979 Ford pickup Bronco truck, and I inherited that. I could learn how to drive that. I wished I had it now. I missed out on a lot of things because I didn't know how to drive. And then I sold that, brought that Ron brained up here. That was Nancy's husband then. Let him bring it up here and sell it for me because it was causing trouble between me and Sherry. Sherry was still at home then, and she was driving it, and she was the only one that could drive it. I couldn't drive it, and she wanted to go up there and move in with her boyfriend and take my truck and live uptown and leave me sitting out there in the country without any way to go or anything. And I wouldn't let her do that. I said, no, it's my truck, and you're not going to do that. And so I got Harry to catch her one day at the News Observer. We just went by there, and I said, I want to get this truck today and take it to Little Rock and sell it. It's causing trouble between me and Sherry, and I'm not going to put up with it. So I did, and he went and got it for me. And he drove it up here to Little Rock and got Ron to sell it. And Sherry moved back home then. She was having trouble with her boyfriend. Her boyfriend was on drugs. His brother was on drugs, and she had moved in with him. And he'd go off to El Dorado or someplace and leave her on weekends by herself. And she got tired of it. She said, Mom, can I move back in with you? And I said, yeah. If you want to move back in with me, all you got to do is just respect the fact that I have rights just like you do, Nancy. I said, I'm no longer married, and I have a right to have boyfriends just the same as you do. And if you respect that, and I respect you having your friends, then we can live together. But if you don't, we can't. So she said she could, so she moved back in with me. And she was working she wanted to work at Howard Brothers. They had Howard Brothers out there in West Crossing. And she didn't have no way to get to work, so I told her, I believe we can buy you some kind of car so you can have a place to go to work. So we went to her dad-in-law's, Mr. Chapman, and bought let me see, it was I don't remember what the name of the car was, but anyway, it cost $1,800. And I give him the $18. Mr. Chapman put it up to his nose and smelled it. He had to have it doing her that way, and Robert had to have it doing her. He'd sniff everything. You had him money, and he'd sniff it so he'd see what it smelled like. And he always did his wife that way too. He'd sniff her every morning to see if she smelled good. And Robert did Sherry that same way. I said, what in the world are you doing? Does he do that for her? Nancy said, Sherry said, I don't know why he does that because he's seen his daddy do it. I said, yeah. I thought Sharon was happy as bug and rub, but you know, her and Robert had been married and had 2 children. Had Jonathan and Daniel McDaniel, and I thought they was happy as a bug and rub, and I had no idea. She was thinking about getting a divorce. I wouldn't never moved over to Miss Chapman if I'd died. On that side. The reason I moved over there is because I had to get Jonathan or somebody to take me to visit Harry every day. I didn't drive, so I didn't have no way to go visit Harry unless somebody would take me. And he had to go to school, so he'd have to wait till after school every day and take me to visit Harry.
What are some of the most historical periods in time there that you can remember?
I don't know. I've seen a lot of things. A lot of good ones and a lot of bad ones, but I've had a pretty good life, I guess. I can't think of too many things that I'd do over again. You know, I'd do anything different from what I'm already doing.
What age were you during like the Great Depression?
I was born in 1927. I was born just before the Depression. You know, the Depression was in 1929. I was born in 1927. So I was born just before the Depression. And of course, I was too little to remember the Depression too much.
Who was president when you were born?
I don't know. I don't remember things like that. President Roosevelt, I guess. I'm not sure. Or Kennedy. I remember, you know, we had several presidents since let me see, the president was Roosevelt, Kennedy, and Bill Clinton, and
Both Bushes.
yeah, Bush,
Reagan.
and what about that peanut farmer? What's his name?
Had Ronald Reagan when I was born.
Yeah, Ronald Reagan's another one that I forgot to mention. But this one was a peanut farmer. He lived in Georgia, and he was a peanut farmer. I can't think what's her name is. And she said she didn't like him. I said, I always liked him. He's a good president. And Nancy said she don't like Bill Clinton, but I said, I didn't particularly like the way he acted while he was in office, but he was a good president. Arkansas was doing good under him. You know, our economy was doing real good under him. What he did in office, in the Oval Office, had nothing to do with it, and anything to do with him not being a good president. It was just his morals didn't seem to be too high, and he liked kinky sex, and his wife undoubtedly knew he liked that sexy sex, and she forgave him for it. So why shouldn't we forgive him for things like that? I said it wasn't none of our business anyway about the sex part. But most other presidents done the same thing. Only thing they didn't get caught at it. That little guy was trying to get his job. The only reason he got caught. They was trying to take his job away from him. They said she didn't like him because she thought he was evil. I said, I don't think he's evil. I think he's a man got caught into a situation and didn't know how to get out of it. You know, without, and it shouldn't happen there in the office like that. You know, where he could be caught red-handed. But I said other presidents have done the same thing. One thing, they just didn't have nobody after their job, and it wasn't publicized. A lot of the other presidents done the same thing.
What
And I said we're not supposed to judge people anyway. The God tells us not to judge people because if we do judge people, they're going to judge us. And that we're not supposed to judge other people. Oh, God's going to judge us. He's the only God, only one we need to judge us.
So was it the service there that took TV out to California? Or?
Yeah, he was in the service. He got his what do you call it? Out in San Diego, and then he went up to Firestone and got a job right away. You know, he was in the audience in the service, and he did wheel line. You know, he went to Aberdeen, Maryland twice and took 2 courses in a wheel alignment for Jeeps and trucks and different things like that. Line the wheels, you know, make them where they work right, or they work right on the road, you know, where not the one side lower than the other, so it makes it more bumpy. So he got a good job in Firestone whenever he got out of the service, because he'd already had them courses.
Did he always work in TV repair in Carlson, or?
Yeah. When he first come back here, he met Harry Bond, and Harry Bond wanted him to go to work for him. And he took a correspondent course in television. So he didn't go to school, but he did take a correspondent course, which that's going to school by mail, and learned how to repair televisions and how to build a television and everything. And that was in 1947, I believe. Or maybe it was about 1948 or 49, somewhere along that way. I wrote a story about my life, and I gave it to Sherry. She was going to get it typed up for me, but somehow she got too busy. She's a school teacher, and she never did get it done. She gave it back to me, and I don't know what I done with it. I lost it somewhere along the way. I said, I think I had a pretty exciting life in my younger days. I got my fill of traveling, I'll tell you that. I didn't want to travel anymore once I started. And my Nancy and I went to New York one time. We went to New Jersey, and Harry and Jeannie, Harry Bond, not Harry Bond, that Harry. What's Harry's last name, Nancy? Prestonberg. And Jeannie, that was John Hoover's daughter. T.B.'s brother's daughter. Took us on to New York twice. We went to New York twice. And Nancy went up in the what do you call it, the Statue of Liberty. She climbed up the stairs and went up inside the Statue of Liberty. I couldn't climb the stairs, but I just did go inside the Statue of Liberty. Look at all the pictures. They got pictures of all the armies and everything that happened, every war that happened. It's all on film, it's and big pictures on the wall, sort of like a movie is. It shows pictures of things that happened in the past, like the wars, each one of the wars and things like that. So it's kind of interesting. Then I went over to Ellis Island and seen where the people that come in from other foreign countries comes into Ellis Island, to come into this country and become citizens. We went there, and then we went up to the can't think of what station it is now. Big station in New York. Grand Central Station, I guess you call it. And we walked, and John Hoover went with us, and we walked to all these places because you can't drive there. You have to, whenever you go into New York, you have to leave your car about 20 miles outside New York, and you have to go in by train. You have to get the train and go in. And if you can get a taxi, you can get a taxi and go over to New York, but we couldn't get a taxi, so we just walked wherever we went. Oh, my leg got so tired and I hurt so bad. I told him, I said, if you don't find me a place to sit down, I'm going to sit down right in the middle of the sidewalk. And of course, the people are so thick that you had to have to stir them in order to move them out of the way so you could get through. There's so many people there, absolutely you couldn't hardly make a move without squeezing through. I said, Nancy, your legs hurt so bad if you don't find me a place to sit down, I'm going to sit down right here in the highway, right on the sidewalk. She said, you better not, somebody will walk all over you. But we finally found a little old cafe and went in and sat down and got us some cold drink and something to eat and rested a little bit.
You want to go party?
We wanted to go see the Big Apple, but I then got too tired. I couldn't go that far.
So you said you had a pretty exciting life when you were young there. What all did you do when you were young? That's so exciting.
That's about all. I didn't do anything all that exciting. You know, I never have done very much exciting. I remember when Daddy died, when TB died, you know, he bought me a stereo. And I'd never been by myself before. I didn't know what to act when I was left by myself because, you know, I run away from home and wasn't not very long till TB and I got married, and then we started having children, and I always had the children around and everything. And when he died, all the children done married, moved away, and I was left by myself. I didn't know what to do. I'd never been to the grocery store and just could decide what does Mary like to eat, what do I like to eat. You know, I always thought, what do I want to cook for my family, you know. And all of a sudden, I had to decide what do I want to eat, what I want to fix for myself. And I just didn't know how to do that. I had to start right from scratch and learn how to do everything for myself. Because TV hadn't never allowed me to go buy groceries. He always wanted to do it himself. I thought at first it was me that didn't want to go. But I thought when we first got married, you know, I was kind of big with Sherry, with Nancy, and I thought, and he was working at Firestone, and he'd call me and ask me what I needed from the store, and he'd just stop by the store and get the groceries and bring them home, so I could fix whatever we were gonna have for supper, you know. And I thought it was me that didn't want to go to the grocery store. I didn't know it was him wanting to keep me from going to the grocery store. He wanted to do the shopping himself, and I let him get away with that till we was living over in where Ralph's living right now. And Tina and Diane, Tina and Ralph and Diane and John was living down there below us on that 2 acres, you know, that was right in front of Josephine's house. And they'd go shopping on Wednesday and get double stamps, you know, and they'd, you know, take those stamps and buy things for the house, their house. And TV would, he would do the shopping, and he would get the stamp books, and he wanted to get fishing reels and rods and reels and things for himself. You know, he didn't want to get things for the house. So I told him, I said, I want to go shopping with Diane and John on Wednesday. Diane and Tina on Wednesday, so I can get the stamps, so I can get things for our house. And he said, well, I've always done the shopping, and I'm going to still do that. And I said, well, I don't think that's fair. I said, I want to be treated like other women. I want to be treated like other women and do the shopping for it. I said, don't you feel kind of silly going up there and you see other women there shopping and their husband maybe following around behind, you know, with them, but not doing the shopping, because women are supposed to buy the food it's cooked in the house, because she knows what she has to cook, likes to cook, and what she's going to cook. I said, how would you like I go out there and tell you in your television shop and tell you what kind of tubes you need to get? And I wouldn't know what kind of tube you need to get, and you don't know what kind of food I want to cook either. So I want to go to this shopping. But he'd let me a time or two, and then he made a remark that all I wanted to buy was toilet paper and face soap. I said, well, that's the things that he wouldn't buy whenever he was going to shop. He wanted me to make out a grocery list, and if I'd buy it, I'd tell him to put something on there that he didn't want to buy. He'd just say they didn't have it, and he wouldn't buy it. I said, I want to go buy the things that I think we need. And I said, those are the things that he would not buy. And he didn't think we needed them. I said, I think we need them as bad as we need food to put it on the table. Anyway, he still said he was going to do the shopping. And I was sort of like Ralph. I didn't like the rocker boat, so I just let him go ahead and do it. Then one time he decided he was going to sell that 2 acres of land down there that Josephine and Abel had given us, when we first moved back here from San Diego. And I said, well, my name is on that deed just the same as yours is. If you're going to sell it, I want my half of it. Whatever you get out of it, I want half of it. He said, well, I asked him how much was he asking for it, and he said $8,000. I said, okay, $4,000 out of mine is mine. I decided I was going to stand up for my rights. I said, if you don't stand up for your rights, you ain't going to have none. I decided I'm going to have my share. And after he got that money, he said, what do you need $4,000 for? And I said, I don't know, but I'll think of something. I couldn't think of anything that I needed, really, that I wanted to buy. But he said, he went and bought me that stereo. He bought me that stereo and some cassettes, things like that. And he bought Sherry a sewing machine. And I guess that's what, he thought that was all he needed to do was buy me that stereo. But I said, I still want my $4,000. But he didn't give it to me. He wouldn't give it to me. But he died before he got to spend it, so I still got the $4,000. I thank God. I say God is a just God. I believe He's a just God, and I believe He knows when somebody's being treated fair and when they're being treated unfair. And somehow it works out where it's to their advantage. It did mine anyway.